What's up guys, welcome back to a new video. The long-awaited Baki prisoners versus the Kengan Ashura Annihilation Tournament fighters is here. First I'll cover some information regarding the prisoners, then I'll get into the what if battles. Help me reach my 2021 goal of 100k subscribers by subscribing if you're new to the channel or you just haven't already. It's free, easy to do. Also consider checking out the description for the Discord server and my Twitter. Now enjoy the video. The most evil death row convict saga or arc is the first saga in the second manga series of Baki, titled New Grappler Baki, where these prisoners pretty much all go to Japan in the hope of facing defeat, and then that's where our main cast, Baki, Doppo, Hanayama, Retsu, Katsumi, and some other fighters show them defeat. Also take note, I'll be using the power of the prisoners from the Most Evil Death Row Convicts arc, not the Revenge Tokyo arc where we haven't really seen their power, just them training, and we don't really know how strong they've gotten in Revenge Tokyo and everything regarding that. I'll start with our boy Dorian, who as we know is a Kaio who mastered the Chinese Kenpo, who's actually an American fighter. So an American fighter who mastered the Chinese Kenpo, allowing him to become a Kaio like Retsu. I would consider Dorian the most impressive of the 5 prisoners, and I would consider him the strongest, but not only due to raw physical power. I would argue he's probably second or third in raw physical power, just due to everything he showcased during the arc is why he's pretty much rank 1 for me. His height is 204 centimeters, which is like 6'8", and his weight is 130 kilograms. Throughout his arc, he faced multiple people until he ended up facing defeat. These people included Doppo Orochi Katsumi, where he was able to take off one of Doppo's arms and burn Katsumi. He was able to one-on-one brawl and defeat Kato, and then later got defeated by Retsukai, which left Dorian with a child's brain after taking too much damage from all his battles. As a whole, he kept on fighting and kept on coming back. A lot of his fights, he would take a lot of damage and disappear, and then he would end up coming back and end up rolling his opponent until they took severe damage and had like to team up on him near the end, where he took multiple beatdowns one after each other. So Dorian as a whole is very tanky as well, and is very hard to fight, but he may excel more at street fights rather than hand-to-hand combat fights based on the fights we saw him have throughout the series. The next prisoner we have is Hector Doyle, who I would argue is probably the weakest or second weakest physical wise out of the 5 prisoners. He was defeated by Katsumi Orochi, but also had battles with other characters like Retsu kinda. He was also blinded by another prisoner known as Yanagi, and then he was completely defeated and destroyed by Biscuit Oliver, who broke his back and pretty much just destroys everything about him. But out of the 5 prisoners, he's probably the best at using hidden weapons and pretty much doing sneak attacks, and he is kind of speedy as well, which adds more to his overall character, but definitely on the lower end of the 5 prisoners. Next I'll talk about our boy Spec, the Florida man. I would argue he is number 1 or number 2 when it comes to raw physical power, with him having the least amount of fights out of the 5 prisoners, but having the best fight out of all of them in my opinion, and one of the best fights in the whole series. And that fight of course was against Hanayama, where he was defeated by Hanayama. Super high difficulty I would say, and he's also one of the oldest characters we have in the series, being 97 years old, being built like a fucking god, and being quite tall as well, standing at 221 centimeters, which is like 7'2", 7'3", around that range, with his fighting style being brute force, but doesn't feel ashamed of fighting dirty or doing anything to win his fight. We saw in his battle against Hanayama that he was able to severely injure Hanayama throughout that fight and be somewhat comparable to him, but if I'm being honest, it's mainly due to the way Hanayama fights, and that's why Spec was able to do so much damage to him, and that's really the only reason that fight was so close. If Hanayama didn't fight the way he did, being so passive, just tanking all these shots, Hanayama probably could have rolled Spec more mid difficulty, but due to Hanayama's fighting style, it didn't end like that. But as a whole, Spec is very impressive and a top tier prisoner. Next I'll talk about Sikorsky, probably second or third when it comes to raw physical power, but everything else he's probably the weakest, and I would argue he is the least impressive prisoner we have. His fights throughout the series include the following: he was able to absolutely destroy Igari, the pro wrestler, really easy really wasn't too much of a fight in my opinion. And then after that, he pretty much takes L after L. He was able to take a beating from Baki and survive, which I guess is impressive. He was absolutely rolled and destroyed by Jack Hanma. He was rolled and destroyed by Gaia as well until he officially admitted defeat. So as a whole, didn't take too many dubs, but did take a lot of beatdowns, which I guess is pretty impressive. It shows his durability, with his main asset being his insane grip strength, which is pretty much identical to Rito from Kengan Ashura. So I guess that's pretty cool, but as a whole, not too impressive regarding the other prisoners. And the last prisoner to talk about, of course, is Yanagi. So he is the prisoner with the most hacks ability, but probably the least amount of raw physical strength. There can be an argument between Hector Doyle and Yanagi, but I'll probably say Hector Doyle is above Yanagi when it comes to raw physical strength. But as we know, Yanagi has his poison hand. His main fights throughout the series include Baki Hanma himself, where he was able to face him multiple times. He was able to kind of defeat Baki, and then after that got kind of rolled by Baki in like a tag team battle where Yanagi had Sikorsky with him, and they both pretty much got defeated by Baki, which was, you know, a big unlucky use to him. And an issue for Yanagi is how his poison doesn't really activate straight away. It doesn't have a instant reaction. It takes really time to take full effect on his opponent, which may be an issue. His fighting style is the Way of the Void, which involves his poison hand. And then he was pretty much defeated by Motobe, who pretty much made him look like nothing. And then he was destroyed by Yujiro until he, you know, was pretty much on the brink of death. If I had to rank the 5 prisoners from least powerful to most powerful, including everything they have, raw power, speed, and hacks, the weakest I would say is Sikorsky, then Doyle, then Yanagi, or it could be an argument that Yanagi is 2 and then Spec is 3, but I'll probably say Yanagi is 3, Spec is 2, and then Dorian is 1. So that's my power ranking for the prisoners. Now to pair them up against the Kengan Ashura Annihilation Tournament fighters. So we have a little tier list here. I'm going to place where the Kengan characters would go against the Baki prisoners. Take note that a lot of the Baki prisoners excel at street fights or with the use of weapons. For example, Dorian is rank 1 of the prisoners in my opinion due to his street fighting techniques and how tactical he is using weapons and everything regarding that. While Spec is probably better at hand-to-hand combat or just brawling. But yep, take note that many of the prisoners at their peak are using weapons in a street fight setting rather than in a Kengan match. But yep, Hanafisa, very similar to Dorian, but I would argue he probably goes in around the C tier, definitely below the 3 weakest prisoners in my opinion. Hatsumi, I would argue, is probably in A tier, but I'm going to put him in B tier. But I'm going to put him above... shit. Come back. I put him above these. Oh yeah. What am I doing? Honestly, how does that happen? I'm gonna put him above the 3 other prisoners, but I don't think he's on the tier of Dorian and Spec. But I think he's above these 3 prisoners, I would argue. Akibo, I would say he is above Sikorsky, but probably not the other 2. Ray, I would say, is probably around B tier as well. Probably put him above Yanagi and other 2 prisoners as well. So he's above them. Kanogito, I would put on the A tier, but I wouldn't put him above Dorian or Spec. But I would, of course, put him above Hatsumi and Ray, but I don't think he may convincingly beat Dorian or Spec. He could beat them, but it would definitely be very close, or he loses. But I'm just going to put him on the losing side for now. You definitely lose, definitely lose. Probably C tier, maybe able to outmuscle Sikorsky, probably not though. Rito, I talked about this in my Rito vs Sikorsky video. I think Rito is close, but pretty much everything else, I think Sikorsky outmatches him outside of the grip strength where they're pretty much equal. But yeah, Rito is unlucky. Saw Pang, probably beats Sikorsky. Yeah, probably say he beats him. Mutaba, I think, is a lot more tactical than people give him credit for. And I'd say he'll probably be able to beat... I think he'll be able to beat both of them, honestly. Mutaba is a beast. Give some respect to Mutaba. Arima, I would say, is probably around this range. Well, may be able to beat Dorian and Spec. May not be able to beat him. Really depends how you look at it. But definitely on the same tier as them, in my opinion. A similar thing can be said for Wakatsuki. A crazy what if battle that I could do is Waka versus Spec or Waka versus Hariyama, but it's probably better if I place him up against Spec. But yeah, Waka's probably on that tier as well. Even though he was defeated by Hatsumi in the past, I would say Wakatsuki is above Hatsumi. Kuroki Gensai, I would say, will be able to beat Dorian in Spec in a Kengan match. Outside of the Kengan matches, I'm not 100% sure. It could go either way, but in the Kengan matches, I think Kuroki Gensai would win. I talked about this a little bit in my Doppo Orochi vs Kuroki video, where I actually think Kuroki Gensai will be able to defeat a unprimed Doppo Orochi. The unprimed Doppo Orochi actually defeated Dorian. So yeah, I think Kuroki Gensai will be able to defeat Dorian in a Kengan match. Julius definitely go in A tier as well. It could be an argument they could beat both of them as well. It really depends how you look at it. I was going to put him in A tier. Kiryu Setuna, I would say he'll probably be able to beat these 3 prisoners, but probably have trouble with the later 2. A similar thing can be said for our boy Gao Lang. I'll probably put him around here as well. Kure Ryan, you could argue that he may have trouble with Yanagi. I'm running out of room on this little tier here, so I'm going to put Kure Ryan around here. Cosmo, probably around Okubo, around that tier as well, around there. I'm running out of room, so I'm just going to put them over the top of each other. Bando, that'll be an interesting match. Probably around here, that range. Kyozan, probably be able to beat Sikorsky, maybe not. Probably put him around there. A similar thing can be said for Segabahashi. Akora's probably around this tier as well, probably around Cosmo tier, next to Kure Ryan, stuff like that. Mokinchi and but everyone else here would probably lose against all the prisoners. An argument can be made for some of them maybe beating Sikorsky, but I think Doyle most likely would defeat everyone else below him, and same for Sikorsky around this tier. I'll split everyone else around a similar place around here. They're all pretty much equal except for you can go down here. But yep, that's what I think about the prisoners versus the Kengan Ashura Annihilation Tournament. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Do you agree with me, disagree with me, whatever you think. And yep, that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to subscribe, join the Discord, and yep, that's it guys. Peace.